Feeding 7 billion people is no easy task. One way could be through using genetically modified crops, like this seed of corn. But GMOs are hugely controversial. They aren't just different rules for different types. Different rules are also in place for feeding animals and humans. So what's it all about? Time to take a closer look. Genetically modified plants were first invented to stop crops dying because of disease or being eaten by insects. GMO is an organism which scientists have altered by introducing one or two more genes. Now, the new gene can bring about the production of proteins that gives a modified organism new properties. But what are the advantages? Bug and disease resistance is the biggest benefit, which also results in the use of less pesticides. An example of this would be US GMO cotton. Another added benefit, drought resistance. Modification can create a richer mix of iron, vitamins and proteins. But sometimes farmers start using too much weed killer in their fields, killing off other vegetation because the GMO is resistant to the weed killer. There can also be an unintended impact on insects like bees and butterflies. Using GMOs can sometimes result in genetic mutation in wild plants that have crossbred with GMOs. And lastly, there's an obligation on farmers to keep buying seed and pesticides from GMO companies. Europe allows GMOs, but currently there is less than 1% of Europe's arable land being used for the cultivation of GMOs, and that too only in 5 countries: Spain, Portugal, Slovakia, Romania and the Czech Republic. We only have one GMO being cultivated in Europe at the moment, MON 810, an insect-resistant maize or corn. But at the same time, we import some 40 GMO-based foods, like soya for animal feed. But remember that any GMO product must be clearly labelled. But then again, if GMOs only make up 0.9% of the product, labelling is not compulsory. The last decade has seen a lot of wrangling between member states and manufacturers over the rules covering the cultivation and marketing of GMOs. But member states and the European Parliament have now agreed on a new way forward. The European Food Safety Authority will act as judge and jury over decisions raised on a GMO based on science and whether it poses a risk to health. And member states too have a say. They can ban or restrict GMOs if they have a socio-economic impact, like affecting country planning or agricultural practices. Member states can also decide if they want to grow GM and non-GM crops together and decide the distance between them. Currently, the distances vary from 5 to 600 meters. So what's the future of GM foods in Europe? Can they gain popularity? Well, that's another story.